and welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick, with the City of Hampton's Communications and Marketing Department. And today we're going to be talking with a representative from the school system. My guest today is Bane. Welcome, Ann.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
And you do community relations for the schools.
I do.
So explain what that means.
Well, we feel like the key to a high-performance school division is a fully engaged community. We need not only our professional educators in the school division, but everyone in our community engaged in supporting our children really throughout their lives and certainly in their education. So it's important to us to reach out and give people opportunities and also let them know how important our community is in the development of our young people.
You know, I've been with the city only a short time, but one of the things that I'm so impressed with at Hampton is the citizen engagement. And I see people think of Hampton as the whole city, and the schools and the city staff work very closely together, but you know, there's a separate electric board and a separate staff, but we do things in a lot of cases in the same way. And Hampton has a particular, whether you want to call it challenge or opportunity, but with the military coming in and working to make sure those students get a good school experience while they're here and with their transitions. And I know you're very involved in that.
I am. If I may, I'd love to speak to your point about the confusion that the city and the school division are all one. I love that the community's confused about that. It means that we're working so collaboratively.
That's right.
And that for me, I always say there's a Hampton way of doing business, that we are just naturally collaborative as a community. So we have the city's Division of Youth Education and Family Services, the school division meeting the needs of our young people from really the day they're born, and in some cases even prior to that with Healthy Baby and those kinds of things, getting them ready for school, and then our preparing them with the support of the city, with a variety of nonprofits, with the faith community, and all manner of partners here in this community. So
right, it's like that whole, it takes a village, it takes a city.
Absolutely.
I mean, really, you need everyone's involvement
right.
to work together, and it's so much more efficient when you work together. You're not
right.
duplicating services, you're complementing and referring.
Right. And the young people
together.
really belong to all of us. They do. They're our community's young people, and so to the extent that we can serve them together, they're much better off, and we're so much better off as a community. But to your question about the military community, we have been so blessed as a community to have such a strong military population here, and there are challenges inherent to the transitions of mobile military families and young people as well.
It's a tough thing for those kids. They're amazingly resilient. I mean, some of them won't even say it's a tough thing.
Exactly. But and I'm very proud of this. Hampton is recognized by military families and by school liaison officers, professionals who work at various bases, as being among the most military friendly communities really in the country. We bend over backwards and do everything we possibly can to meet the needs of those young people even before they transition, reaching out to their families, getting them the best information we can, letting them know how to make the best choices for their children when they get here, and then the supports that they receive when they're here, you know, are phenomenal in our buildings. We have great relationships, and the superintendent, Dr. Shiflett, meets regularly with transitioning base leadership just to have that continuity. And even for the last year or so, as a result of some input from our military community at our annual Community Priorities Workshop, we decided to develop an adopt-a-school partnership with Langley Air Force Base. So they really suggested that it might be a good thing for them to do. We put the MOU in place with them. Their leadership, our leadership signed it, and last year we kicked it off. We had about 18 schools supported by individual groups at Langley. So we're supporting the young people who are transitioning with the military into our community, but our military community really supports us too. So it's that healthy two-way exchange.
Amount of volunteers. I mean, it's good to see them in the schools because they're such good role models
Absolutely.
For the kids.
Yeah.
And also, you know, for a school with a heavy military population, their mom or dad might be deployed, but seeing other people and having that involvement is just so good
Absolutely.
For the kids.
One of just a fun day last year was when the group that supports Tyler Elementary School went out and conducted PT with the young people. The photographs were phenomenal, and the young people just, you know, they had a blast.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, you work with the military, but also other members of the community, faith-based groups, business groups, to
Absolutely.
make sure we're preparing students for careers that we have locally.
Absolutely. Let me tell you a little about the faith partnership, if I may. Several years ago, really probably almost 8 years ago, we decided that we wanted to initiate a faith and school partnership. And honestly, I was somewhat terrified at having the responsibility of setting that up, but we went very slowly, worked on a pilot to develop a real agreement around what we can do and what we can't do in those partnerships. So we set everyone up for success. And then we did something of a road show out into the houses of faith around the community to say, we need your help. And we know that you are willing volunteers who support and do good work all over the globe. We need you right here. And invited them in. We began to pair individual houses of faith with individual schools for very structured partnerships. And those have been just phenomenally successful. But we also learned that maybe we missed the mark a little bit because everyone doesn't necessarily want to be that formally engaged, but they do enjoy being able to help. So we also have a variety of houses of faith in our community that aren't partnered with schools necessarily, but they step up whenever we have an emergent need, to fill those needs within the community of our schools. It's spectacular.
When you can leverage volunteers like that, it is so important as the budget cuts, are entering their third, fourth year. I forget exactly how things have been going, but when money is very tight, if you can get people who want to help but don't know how, it takes a lot of work, frankly, to get volunteers and keep those programs going, but it's a cost savings in the long run, and it provides a benefit that you just can't afford to do.
It does indeed, but I would have to say that the big payoff is really not financial at all, and it's just in terms of what it means to a young person. In some of our schools, we have individuals who come weekly and read with our students or have lunch with them, and just having that additional, ongoing, caring, consistent, supportive relationship for a young person is amazing. My own children had a wonderful experience, but they certainly could always benefit from additional caring adults in their kind of safety net that we cobbled together for them. And I know you must feel the same. So.
Right, I do.
Yeah.
Obviously, I still have one of my sons is still in the Hampton public school system.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of parental involvement, since we're talking about parents, you have an event coming up. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
We do. Hampton has celebrated National Parental Involvement Day since 2009, and we really began celebrating that event as the result of a recommendation at one of our annual Community Priorities workshops, and I mentioned that earlier. That's an opportunity. We will. But the folks who engaged in the workshop indicated that they wanted us to work on increasing parental involvement. And we took that to heart and put together some focus groups, brought back some of the folks who were involved in the workshop, and then also ultimately put together a big work team to do some serious research around what exactly that meant in Hampton and how we could go about doing that work. But one of the recommendations of that group was that we celebrate National Parental Involvement Day annually. That if we did that, we would not only create just fun, free opportunities for families to do things together in or around their schools or in the community, but we would also simultaneously heighten the awareness in our community of just how important engagement in the life and in the academic pursuits of young people, is to their success. So with all that said, National Parental Involvement Day is November 15th this year.
Okay.
We learned long ago that parental involvement is too huge to celebrate on one day. So we celebrate pretty much all month. And for the last 3 years, we've kicked off with a signature event called the Home, School, and Community Connection. And the first 2 years, it was sort of a conference format. This year, it's going to be a very active, interactive, fun health and wellness event that will be focused around the 7 components of wellness. And it will be jointly sponsored by the Hampton Council PTA and the Hampton Education Foundation. It will take place on November the 10th, which is a Saturday, from 10 to 2 at the Hampton Teen Center. We have lots of community partners who are participating in it to do demonstrations, interactive activities, things that'll be hands-on and fun and get our families moving together and learning techniques to be healthier or well.
That was an important component of the community plan. There was a health component, but also in terms of the youth component and making sure our kids are more active and preventing childhood obesity.
Absolutely. So it's a perfect opportunity to align the two. We're thrilled about it, and quite honestly, having it at the Teen Center is, there's just one more
it can help pull people.
Opportunity for us to get families who may not have seen that amazing asset in our community. They'll come out, have a little fun, and get to see what's available there at the Teen Center for our young people.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, now we promised we'd get back to the Community Priorities Workshop. That is something that you really started, didn't you? Or
well, I started it in the sense that I was tasked with doing the work, but it was not my idea. But it's a wonderful idea. It's a fabulous model, I think, for getting people involved in just creating kind of a shared set of outcomes for the school division. Obviously, we have a strategic plan. We work really hard at that and at aligning to it. And we did tremendous community outreach and had overwhelming input into the survey. So we know that our community is bought into our strategic plan. But we try to convene what I call a representative cross-section of a variety of stakeholder groups annually to just get together and talk about what it is that they're seeing in terms of what we could do, what their priorities are in our school division. And they vary annually. Most of the time they do align to the strategic plan, but it gives us a little focus in terms of what the community wants, and it gives the community the ownership and the engagement that they're really entitled to. We are the community's school division.
See, I think that's so important, is that sometimes people, maybe they're watching at home on cable and they're thinking, I don't have a child in the system anymore, it's not of interest to me. And you forget how important a school system is to the health and well-being of a city. People aren't going to live here if the school system isn't, up to what they expect. And it's not going to train the workforce of the future, and you have all these, well, I'm only looking at the horrible side, but on the positive side, which is what you're emphasizing, is you can pull in volunteerism and people who are invested in it and get a lot of we have a lot of young retirees who have a lot to give out there, and so you reinvest people in that by getting their involvement or their views or whatever.
Absolutely, and we learn a lot from them. We don't know everything, and it really is wonderful to go out into the various sectors of the community and see through the lens, that they see. So it's a great event. We do it annually. It is not what I would call open to the public in terms of we don't just throw open the doors and have everyone in, because we try to be very strategic about having the groups balanced so that there's not too much emphasis, for example, on students or teachers or the business community, the faith community, the community of elected officials, the neighborhoods. We try to have the numbers balanced, and we also try really hard to make each individual stakeholder group really reflect the community in terms of age and geography and gender and race, and so we do it by invitation, but with a lot of community input into that as well.
And then and the outcome is also reported to the community, and
absolutely,
and you share what you learn and what you're going to do with what you learn.
We do it at the subsequent board meeting, and I'll be honest, sometimes we hear from people, we didn't hear exactly what you did, and so we continue to work on that, putting that information out there, always being mindful that our communities invest the time. We want them to know exactly how we responded. I gave you that one example of the parental involvement initiative. We invited everyone who participated in the workshop to come back to focus group with us around that work. So we try to close those loops as best we can.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So you do, personally you do, but the school system also does a lot of information gathering and input, much in the same way the city does. And there's so much back and forth because we're intimately tied together.
Absolutely.
One of the key things a local community provides is for the education. The budget, we're all rolled up together in that and in working together to take care of our school age population.
Absolutely. And I think, I'll I'll be bold and say that I think we do it better than anyone. And I think the fact that America's Promise has recognized us for a number of years, and now we really enjoy emeritus status as a community as one of the 100 best communities for young people. And the reason that happens is the nature of the way we do business, the fact that we're so collaborative, that we do create this wonderful safety net and continuum for our children. And I've said often, it's important to me professionally, but it's also very important to me personally. My own children grew up here, and they were launched into wonderful lives because of all of the support of this community. The opportunity to serve on boards and commissions, to be on the youth commission, to learn how to be civically engaged. And I think that's why we're recognized.
That's a great foundation.
It is.
That's what you hope for your kids.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, let me just ask you a question. Suppose I am sitting at home and I'm listening to this and I thought, wow, my kids have been gone. I haven't been invested in the school system. Maybe I want to do something. What are some ways people could get involved?
Well, there are myriad ways. You could just present at your local school. I want to share that when we have volunteers in our schools, we do require a Child Protective Service background check.
Yeah,
and we do
important.
that to protect our volunteers and our young people. You can do it through an organization, as an individual. Contact me directly, contact the school, contact your PTA. PTAs welcome the participation and membership of community members who may not necessarily be associated with the school.
Yeah, they do. And especially, when you get to the older levels, a lot of times the parental involvement drops off a little bit. You get, high school PTA meetings, it depends on who's performing or what the topic is sometimes. Whereas in the elementary school, I think parents hold on a little tighter.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then, on the business side, we're always reaching out to our business community, not only to support us, but to provide real world opportunities for our young people to have experiences, job shadowing, mentoring, those kinds of things.
A lot of the high schools require a job shadowing day or some community involvement things. Okay.
And most recently I've been working with our Director of Career and Technical Education, Jesse White, to reach out into the community to build site councils to support our career academies in our schools. And that's been wonderful work to really be able to connect professional people in various sectors to the direction of the career academies. So their real world experience will be guiding what we're doing and ultimately making our young people so much more prepared to enter either the workforce, the military, or pursue their post-secondary experiences.
Right, it's important to remember that not all kids are suited for college.
Sure.
That there's a wide variety of things out there, and that you're preparing you're figuring out what each kid needs and kind of tailoring a program. I think that's one of the things I've been so impressed with the school system, particularly as the kids get older, is to really figure out what that student needs.
Exactly.
Exactly. I was not aware that so many schools, probably they don't, I'm biased because Hampton is all I've seen, but it's just been a remarkable journey, at least for my kids.
Well, I would suggest that you need not look further. But it is. It's remarkable, and we do have a wide variety of students with different interests, different needs, requirements, and we meet them all. We say we provide academic excellence for every child, every day, whatever it takes.
That's a big job.
Yeah, it's a great job.
And you seem to love it, and it's great to talk with you. We need to wrap up now, but we'll have you back.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
And thank you for joining Round Robin. I hope you will think about, if you have some spare time, volunteering at a school or working with an organization that volunteers. Thank you.